or I'll just hang out.
Right. We are recording to the cloud, not my computer.
Nice. In that case, it's time for us to welcome Maedi, telling us about reflective testing. So we haven't tried any of our switching over yet, but please do remote welcomes of Maedi, and I will stop sharing. And Maedi, you can begin whenever you are ready. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Hey guys, good to be here. First, I'm on gallery view. First, can I just ask who does code testing? If you want to wave your hand, if you do it. Yeah, and more importantly, do you like it? Everyone likes it? Interesting? Yeah, okay. So I don't really like it, but that's okay. Everyone can have their own opinion. But it needs to be done. So I've made an automatic version of code testing, and things out there exist. I'm not sure if this particular thing exists, but please let me know later on if it does, because then I can stop building my project and use theirs. So have you guys heard of, just quickly, generative testing? If anyone wants to put their hand up for that. Okay. So generative testing is kind of like, so in testing in general, you write tests, right? And generative testing is like an automated, semi-automated version where you write a test that then writes lots of other little tests, and you say, I want to check that these values always come back within this range, and then it does all of lots of little tests. And basically, it's a evolution of the traditional testing that we do. I'll just share my screen now because I've got a table. Okay. So I'll show you my thing. I know I'm a bit over the place, but I'll just show you. So this is the tool that I'm making called Reflekt, and I'm just calling it reflective testing. And I kind of see it as the natural evolution on generative testing. So basically the whole aim is that you don't have to write any tests, that this writes the tests for you automatically 100%. And all you have to do is add it to your class. So you go prepend reflect. And then what happens is this code tracks your code using the power of reflection. That's where I got reflective from. And it is basically just tracking all the inputs and outputs, all the values. Here's a little flow chart of like an example application. So your method's doing something, goes from point A to point B. And while it's doing that, little mirror shadow executions, as I'm calling them, little mirror processes go off the side. And that happens many, many times for each time a method is called. And also an entire new copy, a new clone of the object is made. So you're working on temporary data. You're not actually ruining your data. And then I made a nice little table of the comparison. Obviously, I've got all the ticks because mine's the best, but maybe I'll add some question marks in there one day. So normal testing, it's running in the background on a separate entity. Generative testing is the same, except you write those tests, as I mentioned before, so there's a little subtest that get created. Reflective testing actually runs on the application itself. I kind of like that. It's running internally in the internal applications flow, and it's running when you run the application. It's running when you visit the website on your local server. It doesn't run on a cron job or anything else like that, although it could be in the future. So that's an overview of reflective testing. And now I'll show you an example. I've got a little terminal tool here called ngrammer, and it makes ngrams from word lists. A word list is like just a line break separated text document with lots of words, and then ngrams are portions of words. And so ngrammer tries to find the common letters inside of words, and you can just run that. You can basically start it, give it your word list, process it, display the results, and then the results will look something like this. So here we can see that CON is a very common starting 3 letters in the English language. And I actually made this for a board game, but that's another story. And if you're interested, here's a lot more letters. It's pretty cool what the English language is made of. So I run my little application. I'll show it to you first. So here it is here, same thing. Starting it, processing, got a parameter here, 3, and then displaying 10 results. So I'll run that. So there are the results, and in my application, I have appended Reflekt. And now I get some results. So over here, we've got the classes that were in this app. We've got the n-grammar class, which is the main one, and then a bit of a model type class called alphabet. And so now you can click through all of the methods inside this class, and you can view all of the reflections, which are simulations, those side branches on the right side of that flowchart that I showed you. And then also the controls, which is the actual values that was processed. And then don't worry about this 100%, that's a bug. Basically what happens is it will now compare the control values and the reflection values and then come up with a percentage of success rate, because it's aiming for that control group. And the more you run the application, the more values you put in, the larger your sample size of good values becomes. And then obviously the percentage on the right here will go up the more and more you use the application. And then say if you put like the wrong value in, you can delete it. There'll be a delete button here for one of the control group reflections. And that is basically it. That's basically it. You run this many times, you can, oops, I'll just close this one off. I'll just go through a few values. So here, this is just an output. There's no input for this one. And we've got a hash coming out. And it's a similar situation, I think, for the other ones. Just outputs, just hashes coming out of these ones. Yeah, that's me. I've talked too much. Thank you. Any questions?
So is it that it is generating test cases by you just using your app?
Yes, that's exactly it.
But you have to have written the first test case? That
you don't have to write any tests. It assumes that when you're developing an app, you're putting in values usually that are the right values. And if you put a wrong value in, then you can delete it later for the control group. So there's a database there that just keeps getting bigger.
So for the development flow, normally you'd write your tests first. How would you go about doing this? You got to write some code and then have a way to actually run that to input some data that then it generates the test.
Exactly. I'm completely going against test-driven development. That's my stand. So yeah, you don't have to agree. But yeah, I'm saying that you can write the spec, as a lot of digital agencies do. I'm from one. And a lot of people aren't doing test-driven development. Like, I know it's great, but not everyone's doing it. So this is for them, and this is to get software better in general for the people that aren't doing it the right way. Yeah. I think the code should be the source of truth. And the problem with test-driven development is you now duplicated your structures. And it becomes very brittle when you update one thing, you got to update the other thing. And that's the kind of angle I'm going at for this particular tool. Yeah. So,
how does it detect failures? Like what happens if your code was just wrong?
If the code was just wrong, you mean like creating an exception or creating bad values?
Yeah, like the output was not correct. There's something wrong with the code.
You delete the control group, as I said before. Delete that control value. You look through the list and you go, oh, that should never output that, and you delete it. Yeah.
How long did it take you to complete that project? It's a really good job you've done there. Really thinking outside the box as well.
Oh, thanks. Just been working on it for the last few months, on and off. You know how it is. Got a day job. Yeah.
Have you been using it in production anywhere?
I know this is just working on it. Well, that tool's a real world tool, but no, I haven't been working on production yet. I still have to integrate it with Rails. That'll be the next thing after after I've done this.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's really cool though. I quite like the approach of like if I didn't have tests available to me because maybe someone else had written them, dropping that in and suddenly getting something other than nothing.
Yeah, I should mention you can use this with test-driven development. You can use it by itself or with it, so it's up to you in your situation.
Thank you very much, Maedi. That was very interesting. I think more testing in the world is always a good idea for our software. So really wonderful to